is Chancelle Mafoua. Most people just call me Chance. Originally, I was born in Congo in Africa, and I grew up in the States at Jersey, right across the river in Jersey City, and different parts of Jersey, and lived in Illinois for a little bit as well.
And what do you do professionally?
I work as a freelancer in film and television. I recently got into the locations department, so now I work as a location coordinator.
What were you interested in high school?
In high school, I was actually interested in film. I first got introduced to film when I took a film history class. And from there, I just fell in love with the whole process of filmmaking and wanted to produce from a young age.
Oh, and you understood what producing was.
Yeah.
It was like, what is producing?
You know, just in my understanding, just bringing together a project such as a film or a television show and, you know, just making it happen. If you have an idea or a script or whatever it is that you want to make come to life,
You're responsible. Producer is responsible.
I don't want to say you produce, but you do.
you oversee.
Yeah, exactly.
You take a lot of responsibilities for all the details.
Exactly.
Was anyone in your family involved in film or in the arts?
Not at all. As far as my direct family, my mother, my father, no. But there's a lot of my extended family, cousins and stuff that are in the arts, music, especially music, you know.
Professionally or for their own development?
Well, their own development and one or two that are professionally. But a lot of them are very artistic in terms of music, dance, you know, draw paintings and things like that. When I got to college, I actually didn't study film in college. My father wouldn't let me, but it was impractical to him. But I did take, you know, a film class here and there.
What were you studying? I
studied, finished with communications. I changed my major a few times. Didn't know what I wanted if it wasn't, you know, film. But I ended up with a communications degree, and I minored in theater because I've always been interested in the arts, music, dance, theater, film. I'm a very artsy person. When I got out of college and I came back to New York, that's when I really wanted to fully get into film. Like I did, in my eyes, I did what I had to do for my dad. I gave him my degree. Okay, now to pursue what I want. So I came to New York, and I didn't really have a way in because I didn't know anybody in the industry. So I was just like, how am I going to do this? I submitted my resume to like every production company that I could find, every film company, studio, anything. I basically harassed them, and then I found out about the Made in New York program, and then I did that.
It sounded like you would contact a company more than once?
I did, like for a few of them.
What was your procedure?
First, if I didn't have a phone number, I would find an email and email them. If I did have a phone number, I would call. Because before getting into production, I didn't know who did the hiring, so I would just always ask for the producer. You know, I was not familiar with the whole process and things.
The producer talks to everybody.
Like, you're not talking to them. But I called them consistently, asking for a different person. Let me talk to the director. It was I think they got a kick out of me just calling, asking to talk to the producer. Who are you?
Well, that's good to hear because now it's so hard to make contacts.
Yeah.
To know that even it's still possible by just yeah.
When I first got into the program, wow, it definitely.
How long ago was that?
It was about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
I did the program. I did it in the summertime. It was my second or third month back into New York City, and it was about 4 weeks of production training. Mm-hmm. You know, they taught us everything about set etiquette. We learned how to use walkies. We learned, you know, different aspects of a production assistant's job details, and you know, we visited some sets. We did some internships on real productions that were going on. It's a great learning experience for me. I know it's just not me, but a lot of people when they think about film or television, they're not familiar with the different positions that are involved. Most people just know producer, director, and actor. You know, they don't know that there's a grip and there's a locations department and this and that. I didn't know that, and I got introduced to all of that. I was like, they have all these positions? So it's like an actual career, like, you know, I didn't know that. The first job I did was actually right after I finished the program. I did the internship, the feature that first called me. I worked on that. And then from there,
can you say the title?
It was what was it? It was an indie feature called Fugly, starring John Leguizamo. And then from there, then I started getting into a lot of reality shows like Real Housewives of New Jersey, and you know, that's when I started learning, you know, a little bit more about production and just figuring out where it was that where my place was in this whole element, you know, of production.
So what has been your conclusions about these different vehicles
For me personally, I like features and episodic television shows, scripted things, because for me, for me it's all about the creativity, and I feel like as opposed to reality television shows, scripted things have, you know, it allows for more creativity, a more creative group, because for reality, I feel like the people that work there is mostly about the money, you know, and you don't really have as much, what am I trying to say? You're not really aiming for any type of creative goal.
Have one of them scream louder or do.
Exactly, it's more about the money as opposed to feature anything scripted, because then that's when you have to hire crews for like different, you know, specific crafts. That's when you're introduced to the different world that is how, you know, the business of filmmaking. You know, there's the makeup department, then there's wardrobe, then there's the set dressers and the construction. It's like you see it all come together, and it's like, wow, you know. And I just love seeing a whole set come together, and just the day, like, to watch a film and to be like, oh, I remember when they were fixing that costume, and you know, it wouldn't stay on, or you know, and then they had to pin it to the back here, and then but when you look at it, it doesn't look like it's pinned, you know, and it's like, that's so cool. Yeah, you know, and you see the whole creative process, and everybody works together for one goal. You know, it's not as much about the money as it is about what they're doing.
Are the people similar to what you would think in a normal
They're
business?
not. Normal, see, that's the thing. There's no such thing as normal in production. You're dealing with a lot of different personalities. And sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not so fun. But a lot of them have big personalities, and I always like it. I'm a people person, so I like meeting different types of people, and I don't know, I just feel like sometimes it's very, very stressful though, as far as, you know, because you're getting thrown with a lot of different things, a lot of times what they're requesting sometimes isn't always attainable.
What does your family think about your profession?
You know, they don't get what I do. They really. So what is it exactly that you do? You know, you try to tell. You just like, I make movies. Okay, you know, that's what.
Are you a director?
That's what it boils down to. Because you're like, no, you know. First you're like, okay, as a PA, and when I'm PAing, okay, I'm on set. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. So, what is it that you're doing? I'm helping I'm helping with the process of the filmmaking. I'm helping facilitate the whole process, make sure everybody, you know, everybody has what they need. But that's as a PA. But then, okay, now I'm coordinating, office coordinating. Okay, now I have to make sure I'm doing this now, and I'm handling this. But I thought you were doing that last month. Okay. You know, they don't, okay, now I'm in the locations department, so that's a whole nother, and they're like, they don't get it.
What's your life like now in terms of working these? I mean, has your social life become the crew people?
A lot of it has. My first 2 years, I'm going on my third year now, but my first 2 years was a lot of adjusting, understanding, figuring out how to balance my personal life with my work life, because once I would start a production, I would completely forget about my friends. It's like work, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, whatever hours. Okay, I can't talk to you right now, don't call me. I don't want to hang out with you because I'm too tired. And then now I'm like, okay, that's not always good. I'm learning how to balance my work life and my personal life now. But when I first started, I had absolutely no life. I would see my friends maybe like once every 6 months.
So it sounds like it could be very hard to have, and also if you were talking about having a relationship with someone.
Yeah, that's even more difficult. Unless it's like a catch-22, because in order for whoever your spouse is, to understand the kind of schedule you're going through, they have to, really be in a similar situation. But at the same time, if they're in a similar situation, you never see each other. So it's like, you can date somebody outside of the industry and have them kind of resent you and be unhappy because, they know you're working late and stuff, but then, they say they're supportive, but then are they? Because they're complaining about it,
So that is a complication of being in this kind of work.
So it's like, I guess it's a matter of the individuals, how they work it out.
What about in terms of, have you steadily had work, or have there been periods where...
I've been very fortunate. The people that I was first introduced with have always, called me on jobs and things like that. But there was a point, like usually when I finish a production, I'll have usually like a week or two, and then I'll get called on another job. But there was my first time that I didn't really have anything for a while was last year. I finished the gig and I didn't really have anything for maybe 3 months, and then that's when I got called for something. And
what was it like during those 3 months?
It was stressful, trying to figure out, okay, should I just get another part-time gig and do that? Should I focus on my craft? Because sometimes I like to write too, so should I do that? But then at the same time, I still have to pay bills, but then at the same time, I want to make sure I'm available and out there so that they know, they can still call me. So I was still learning, and, because I've never been put in that situation.
This kind of pertains to because I'm showing this next month, Women's Month, and we're going to show a film that we made, and it kind of deals with depression. So that's one of the topics we're going to tie in. Okay. Was it depressing a little bit?
It was, and I'm not going to say it was just because of that, but I had so many other personal issues going on at the same time in addition to that. So for me, I became depressed, and I kind of shut everybody out and just wanted to be by myself.
I'm just bringing that up because I think in the long term, in staying in this kind of profession, one has to deal with bouts of depression, bouts of loneliness, watching how you eat, whether or not you drink too much. I mean, just because you work such long, then you want to unwind, but you're still wired, or the food's always there, and these, if you look at something, you have to look at what are you going to have to deal with and learn how to balance.
Exactly.
And so what are your suggestions for if you get into a period of depression when you're a freelancer? How do you counter that or get through that? For
me, I would suggest figuring out, first of all, what it is that makes you happy. Like, find out what your passion is. For me, I'm most happiest when I studied music for a very, very long time. So just listening to music or singing something or whatever, is that's my form of therapy. So my suggestion would find out what your form of therapy is, whether it's running a mile or two, and just do something positive, use that form of therapy to kind of, because sometimes you do need your time to yourself to just kind of clear your head, and all these people coming, oh, what's wrong, can just complicate things more. So if you do need that time to yourself, don't be afraid to take it. Just don't shut everybody out at the same time, and just find out what it is that you're passionate about and use it as your form of therapy.